Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today with Lance and Elaine Stitcher of Seaside Vacations and Sales, and just industry celebrities, I would say. It's so exciting to have you guys here. Welcome.
Oh, we're so happy to be here. And that is incredibly kind and funny all at the same time.
Yes, thanks for having us.
It's awesome. I had heard about you for so long. So to finally meet you in person, you were everything that I had built up in my mind and more. But I do say, I dare say there are likely a few people on the fringes that don't know the story of Elaine and Lance and how you guys came to be. So why don't you give us a little bit about your background and how you came to this organization that you've got?
Absolutely. I'm going to start and then let you jump in. So Lance and I met here in our community. He was the general manager of the Homeowners Association. And when he was looking for a change, I stumbled on a position with Vantage Resort Realty in Ocean City, Maryland.
Okay.
And I've always been passionate about the vacation rental industry. As a traveler, I was fascinated by it. So I encouraged him to apply for it. And I was right. He was really great at it. This is where you jump in.
So I was with Vantage Resort Realty for 3 years in Ocean City, Maryland. We built it into a really strong multi-market company, working from the Jersey Shore all the way far south as Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
In 2015, we were having some differences of opinion on a few customer service issues, and we couldn't agree to what the proper course forward was. And I told Elaine that, you know what, we can do this. We can do it better.
And y'all, I thought he was crazy. We had one in college.
Sophomore in high school and a sophomore in college. And she told me that I was crazy, but
I didn't say it that nicely.
Yeah, not quite. And anyway, we sat down beginning in August of 2015, and we spent about 3 months building a property management company.
And it was terrifying.
I bet.
We started, we built a website with property management software and a credit card processor, which was incredibly difficult to get when you actually had no business. That was probably difficult to buy. And policies and procedures and plans and a marketing plan. And we spent 3 months building this company, and then we were like, well, okay, let's go see if we can find somebody to use this as a property management company.
And it was the perfect combination. I'm the creative person, the writing, marketing, that's my background. And I used to teach as well. Lance is the numbers guy. And we always joke that together we make one mostly normal human being.
Yeah. Well, that's two really great sides of a business.
Yeah. We had different things
occupy
to bring to the table. And it was interesting. You know, we live in the Chincoteague, Virginia area, and our business actually started in Ocean City, Maryland, naturally. Some of Lance's clients from Vantage, you know, after a certain amount of time, they joined us and our business started to grow there. And then we found ourselves wiggling into the Chincoteague Island market, which is home for us, but also a very difficult market to break into. Our island is 3 by 7, and there's a lot of very deep roots there in what we do. But then it started to explode there, and it's just incredible how fast it's
actually got that whole story started over a jalapeno pepper. Elaine,
I love
one jalapeno pepper.
Elaine needed a jalapeno to make dinner. She sent me to the store. I spent 15 cents, but I ran into an old friend who introduced me to a contact who really got our foot in the door in Chincoteague. And that was the beginning of our primary growth spurt. Just kind
I love that.
You owe it all to a jalapeno.
Yeah, I love that.
From one jalapeno to now just north of 300 properties right now.
That's incredible. I mean, and
Yes,
you know, one of the themes we talk about on the show a lot is just recognizing those signals and those events that are just guiding moments that are, you know, making you go in a different direction. Yeah. And it was a jalapeno for y'all.
Yeah. And if you had told us 15 years ago we would be doing this and where we are now, I never would have believed it.
Yeah.
And in Chincoteague, our growth has been pretty much organic. I mean, it's been amazing, just word of mouth. We, believe it or not, nobody was using professional photography or 3D Matterport tours.
Oh gosh, yeah. That makes such a huge
when we
difference.
came into town. Yeah. So it just kind of exploded there. And then Ocean City was growing a little bit more slowly. And being an hour apart, we found a really great team out there to run Ocean City. And it has exploded over this last year, thanks to acquisitions. Yeah, it's crazy. It's over 150 there now as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, really 7 years since you started it, that's not a long time. I mean, that's a very quick growth rate, but how have you done it? I mean, tell us about what you've done. I mean, homeowner acquisition, that's probably the biggest thing, but how have you handled that?
So in Virginia, our homeowner acquisition strategy has been extraordinarily organic, and largely built around a social media presence.
Really? Yeah.
Involvement in the community, showing the
Yeah.
town that you're not just there for the short run to make a buck.
Yeah.
Caring about the community, showing them that we want to make it better and stick around.
Yeah.
And then from the property management aspect of things, just doing it better. If you want to grow, you've got to be the best at what you do. That's the easy way to do it. If you can't afford to go out and buy the business, just be better at everything that you do, and it will come to you.
I always use the term when I talk about our business, small business with big technology, because we've tried really hard to maintain that mom and popness, not get too big, still be able to give that hands-on attention, but obviously all the technology is what makes the rest of the magic happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That really is a sweet spot in our industry, because it is such, we are a hospitality companies at the end of the day. Technology plays such a huge role in that, but it's an assistant to the hospitality and the service that you're providing. So,
and it gets harder as we grow. I mean, it's
absolutely.
And that's one of my concerns, is not getting too big. I don't want to lose that, because then
300 is a good size.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably like the sweet spot. I mean, that's what we were when I first started with Condo World years ago, and we're about at 500 now. But that 300 mark is still really good. And we were a very, good company at that point too. But it's tough when you're in markets that, I mean, where you guys are, I mean, to be able to scale into different areas, that's got to be a challenge. And how do you maintain the business and the operations?
So from that point of view, it's really about the people. It took us a while. It took us a couple of tries to find the right people to be able to pull everything off. Ocean City, Maryland was the real struggle, but Jason and Dorothy are, internally we kind of refer to them as a younger Lance and Elaine.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Both of their values are very closely aligned to ours. And they've been able to really take over the reins for that team. And even though it's local, it's in a straight line, it's 26 miles, but it's a 45-minute drive, because that's how the coast is.
Yeah.
But it's really been able to figure out what we can, what we can run centrally and what has to be done in specific markets, regardless of how far apart they are.
Oh, and these two markets are vastly different.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Maryland is City Beach, high rises, the boardwalk, Thrasher's French fries. Chincoteague Island, like I said, 3x7, no high rises, no boardwalk, wild ponies, get in touch with nature, just hang out at the beach. Different guests, different owners, everything is night and day.
I have always wanted to come up to see when the ponies do the swim.
Oh, you absolutely
should.
Oh
my gosh, we have to plan for that. It's just watching the videos, I'm just in awe. It looks so cool.
It's amazing. I feel very blessed to live there, and I still pinch myself. And one thing I think is really good to bring with you into this business that I try to never lose is I remember what it feels like to be a mom with 2 little kids that just lived for that annual vacation. We scraped and saved every penny we had. And at the end of that vacation, I was so sad, and I knew it was going to be another 365 days before I got to it. And I try to channel that to every single guest. I try to remember how much that meant to me. And we always say that it's not the size of the vacation, whether somebody spent $500 or $5,000, they don't jump on vacation, and it's important.
Hey, that's my line.
It is.
Well, and that's a really important
now.
That's a really important thing to remember. I'm glad you brought that up, because it gets easy to just, and for the operations team, I mean, if you're seeing guests, I mean, multiple hundreds of check-ins on a Saturday, it just, it feels like they're all the same, but you do have to remember that you want to help them as much as they can, because this is such a special time. And these are, we have guests that have stayed with us for literally some for decades. I mean, it's crazy the memories that they make with us. So that's a great point.
I spent a lot of, I grew up in Washington, DC area. So senior week out on Ocean City was always,
Yep.
that was our getaway. But my family always went down to the Outer Banks for our vacation. And to that point, I think about all of my childhood memories that are like the ones that really stand out in my mind. And every one of them was that vacation, that 1 week. We rented the same house every year. And I don't think people do that quite as much. We just have so much access to travel, but it is really important to understand that there are people that that's all they get is that one time. And, I heard somebody say several months ago about the fact that, we're in an industry where we could be celebrating a child's first trip to the beach or grandma's last trip, and it's just, you have to think about all the life that happens in between it, all those memories that you're a part of, even though you're not actually part of it, that they're going to remember you, but your company and the home or the condo that they stayed in. So I think it's great that you guys are channeling that, but wanted to touch on, you guys have been able to grow. And again, having multiple markets, that's operationally, that's always challenging marketing standpoint when you have different markets that are so very different. Cause again, I know Ocean City very well, and that's just, it's a big difference between the two. But adopting technology is something that a lot of vacation rental managers have been challenged with, and some are still very fearful of taking that leap. You've been in the industry just long enough to kind of see this expansion that we've had, that COVID sort of brought about, the advancement of technology. So what was it like for you to, start your business, to get your technology? And I believe you recently moved over to Track, or within the last year or so moved over to Track. And so what was that process like for you to go from what you initially had to selecting a really strong enterprise system like Track?
So we had, I guess I had a really big advantage in that I had helped build a very large, very strong company. And I had those VRMA connections, and I had those conference experiences, and I had a lot of industry contacts. So I got the opportunity to go big, then start from zero, and then go big a second time. So I had already been through property management software changes. I had already built 3 different websites. So I had some big advantages on knowing when it was time to pull some of these triggers. Like when we made the switch to Track, we did it over the course of our busy season.
Oh my gosh, we all thought he was crazy. It was insane. But you know what? He was 100% right to do it when we did, because Track exploded after that.
Had we waited 60 days, we might not yet. I mean, we would have been another 12, 14 months getting live, because it occurred at the time when there was a lot of Inhabit was buying companies, and V12 was being sunset right at the same time.
So this is 2019, I'm guessing, right?
Yep, that was 2019. So that was a big move for us. And of course, the property management system we were on had an integrated website. So not only were we changing property management software, we were building a website at the same time.
We just had that conversation with Terry White a few days ago, and he said the number one advice I can give to property managers is get your website out of your PMS, for that exact reason, that if you want to switch property management software, now to have to switch your website too. I mean, that is your whole business. Your PMS and your website are literally the front door and everything behind it to how you can run. But I'm sure that was a challenge.
Had we been a new company in the industry, that might have been an incredible challenge. Having those old relationships and friendships, quite honestly, those friendships in the industry. I knew who was building my website, and I was able to pick up I called the owner of the company. I said, "Hey, here's what I'm doing." He said, "I got your back. Don't worry about it."
So, and friends in the business, Amy and Carrie, the Rafoscos, they were such wonderful friends and mentors, and we could pick up the phone anytime and, kind of pick their brain, and still do.
That's one thing that's really great about our industry, is that there's such a collaborative nature that has just been fostered. Again, I think COVID gave us that opportunity to really foster relationships from afar, because, doing Zoom. But I think we all understand that we've been sort of taking a backseat to hotels, and we've had to be scrappy, and we've had to work with each other. But it's given us these really great bonds and relationships that I don't know. I came from the hotel side years ago. I don't know that any other industry really has it like we do. And it's so special.
It's true. And it's genuine.
Yes.
I mean, when we go to these conferences and we run into you guys and our other friends, it's like a family reunion. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is. Definitely is. Yeah. Yeah.
So well, I was going to say, back to that technology front, I kind of finished. So anyway, so we went track in 2019. We got that live up and running pretty strong. And then we came into, we had actually just been to a VRM and Intel event down in the Outer Banks in February, late February of 2020. It
was a Beers and Ideas.
Beers and Ideas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And we came home and turned on the TV, and they were talking about this COVID-19. So 2 weeks later or so, or I don't know, 3 weeks later, we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the town shut us down.
Yeah.
And we were like everybody else in the country. Oh my God, what are we going to do? We spent 3 days probably having Zoom meetings with, all of everybody who attends VRMA conferences that we've met. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do. We put our team to work immediately, kind of, if we're not canceling reservations, let's get our minds off of all these cancellations and start.
I'm pretty sure I hadn't handled every single cancellation.
Start tightening up the website.
I cried a lot.
Because we joked during that time, it was like Black Friday in reverse.
Yes.
I mean, it was just undoing all the reservations. I mean, that was
and none of us
depressing
knew.
For everybody.
We didn't know then what the way to play out.
Yeah.
But we also used that time wisely, because that's when we really amped up our tech stack. Kind of the last notch was we brought in, at the same time, we brought in Breezeway, and we brought in a dynamic pricing tool. And we built those out during the shutdown.
Those are expensive things to bring on when there's no money.
Yeah, when there's no money coming in the door.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think we started doing that once there was a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
It was a calculated risk, and also, if you think back to that time, the tech companies had nothing coming in either, so they were really willing to work with us, and there were a lot of what ifs and assumptions about reopening. But if we had some protections if it didn't go well.
Right, exactly.
We have I don't know if you guys know this, we have a real estate brokerage as well. In Virginia, you have to be licensed, and we had no intention really of doing real estate. We know a lot of people here, especially from Lance being, the general manager of the community for so long. It's sort of just, we backed into it. Somebody came to us one day and said, "Hey, can you sell my house?" And we were like, "Yeah, we can."
Yeah.
And so we personally do mostly listings, because, the vacation rental side of things is our baby, but we have a few other realtors in our office now, and it's just kind of crazy how it's.
I mean, it definitely helps the vacation rental business side too, though.
Oh gosh, we probably sold 30 plus houses to guests over the last 2 years.
Oh, really? Gosh,
year after year that then buy a house and let us manage it, which is
that's
the ultimate compliment.
If you go back to those very beginning days when we were small and wondering, is this all going to work out? But so that first person said, "Hey, can you sell my house?" And by that time, we had already committed that we would never take our own photos, because it's another story. That I did very, very badly at. But we had a professional photographer, and I said, "Grant, I said, need you to come down here and shoot this house for me." And he's amazing. And we were, I think, the first person in Accomack County to ever use professional photos.
Wow.
And it turned the listing market upside down, because everyone called and said, "Hey, we want you to sell our house." And and actually the revenue from real estate sales enabled us to accelerate our growth.
Yeah, I'm sure. We've been having a lot of conversations as of late, how real estate is a component they are stakeholders that need to be at the table with vacation rentals, where it comes into regulations. In that, there are some markets where there are realtors aren't doing not doing their due diligence in a proper way and grabbing the right numbers. And so
Yeah.
it's not that they're falsifying, they're just misleading people down a path of an expectation that on the flip side, the vacation rental companies can't deliver on, and it just creates so much friction and ultimately regulation
issue this year.
Huge
issue, and managing these owners' expectations.
Right. Because the realtor told them they're going to get X amount of return
basing on last year's numbers.
And they paid $100,000 more for the home they just bought, thinking that they could rent the heck out of it. And and those owners are very hands-on. And that's definitely been a challenge. I've had owners, the house wasn't even done and they were on us to take pictures because they were so worried about getting live and having some revenue this summer.
Yes, I think there's an opportunity there, as you guys have a brokerage, is to bring the real estate component. I would certainly encourage you as a manager to do that. Like, I know when I was a property manager, we worked very closely with the realtors, and I have a friend here that I always joke with. I helped him close more deals, but I never got any commission. And he'll always give me a big hug and say, that's my commission. But I think, again, he at least had the conversation saying like, this is not my wheelhouse, so to speak. I need somebody who's in it every day and understands it. But there are realtors that are just like, oh, well, last year it made this, so you factor in an increase.
Well, and even just keeping your own inventory on your program. If the homeowner wants to list it and you're the listing agent, the next person that buys it, it's much easier to keep it on your program. So that's kind of been our defense strategy on the real estate side.
Absolutely. And another twist off of that when you involve real estate, because advocacy is such a big conversation these days in our industry. Depending on the market, realtors can be your best resource.
Absolutely.
I will tell you that working in multiple markets and having this conversation with a lot of people, I know, like in Ocean City, Maryland, when talk of regulations comes up, the Board of Realtors is the biggest advocate for vacation rentals. Because they know that in a town like Ocean City, Maryland, that the regulation on vacation rentals is going to have an
instrumental effect.
Community. Definitely the real estate community. So one thing I wanted to touch on too, when you were talking about your website, so you went to track, and then you had to start a new website at that point. How was that process, and who did you work with then?
Well, we worked with ICND. Because we had that relationship. I had built a website with them in the past for another company. And the entire team there is almost like family.
We love them. Brandon, Vanessa,
Brandon and Whitney have been friends for years. April, Vanessa, Paul, the whole crew.
And they're so responsive. You have a question, turn and answer. It doesn't matter how many years we've been with them. They drop everything and they're there when something happens, which is everything.
So it's been, so it was a very seamless project. Actually went very, very well. Kind of on that same front. We're actually in the what's our website, 2019, so I guess we're pushing 3 years old, and
we're doing it again.
We're in the process.
Oh, good for you.
In the middle of a new build now.
Oh, awesome.
Again during the peak season.
We signed again to do it in May, I think. So
but they knew it's been
I'm a glutton for punishment.
No, that's
but
awesome.
you have to stay. What does Brandon say? If you ain't first, you're last. You got to
absolutely.
And it's true. I mean, I feel like we need to stay relevant and current on the most important technology. And then at the same time, there's also the shiny object syndrome that we have to.
Definitely. We all get that when we go to conferences. It's like sometimes I get to a point where I'm like, I can't go in the vendor hall anymore, because you just get FOMO. You want to be able to do all the things, and it's like you can't do all the things. So you have to pick like your top 2 or 3. It's tough, but that's awesome. So do they handle your digital marketing then too? I would assume so.
Yes, they actually do handle significant part of our digital marketing. We do some in-house.
What is your direct versus OTA business?
Right now, I believe we're somewhere between 59 and 61% direct.
60.
We bounce right around 60, and
that's a good ratio.
Hard. I want to get away from Airbnb so badly. I can't even.
I know. We are not Airbnb.
We have a t-shirt for that.
I know, that's the most awesome t-shirt too, by the way. But especially for our smaller properties, owners still have the expectations. And they still want us to be there, but they're still canceling for COVID and giving full refund, and we have no control. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world. So I long for a day when we don't need them.
Yeah.
It's also challenging. I mean, for a company that is 7 years young,
absolutely.
We're not the most established company in any of the markets that we operate in. So we do have a certain, I mean, we've built, I think I can remember in year one, we were maybe 12 or 15% direct.
Wow.
And we have driven and we have pounded away at that every year.
Done a good job.
We invest into technology and SEO and pay-per-click and anything else the ICND tells me teams.
Well, that's what you have to do. And that's huge to go from
content marketing, social media. Social media has been an area that's been tremendously successful for us.
I sat in a session at DARM and someone in the audience just came right out and said they thought social media was outdated. Facebook, they got nothing out of it. And
I think I was in that same session. Was it Paul's?
I was like, what? When we were starting out and we had nothing and we had no money. There's several Chincoteague Facebook groups that have 20,000+ people in them. And it's little things like, oh my gosh, my vacation got canceled. We're here. We have nowhere to go. In Swoop, Lance, and Elaine, we saved their life. Little things like that. And we've had owners come to us and say, you know what, we came to you because everyone comes to you, whether it be for, to rent a place or for property management. We never see a foul word about you guys. And we just kept building that cred on Facebook, and it's still wildly successful.
I think the social media aspect though too is that people, it's kind of like they know what they know. So if they're always on Facebook, they're thinking that that's the only medium that's out there. But every market has a social media platform that works for it. Like what works in Miami is not going to work in Panama City Beach. We have two completely different types of customer, and probably the same thing for you guys, Chincoteague and Ocean City, different type of people. So you have to have different messages. You have to use different platforms. And I wanted to go back to like the Airbnb conversation. It's funny. So I work for Lexicon and we're a channel manager. And so obviously my business is all about being on the channels, and that's what I drive for. But the one thing that I've spent since I was actually at an OTA is talking with people about how the channels are a marketing tool for you. And if you use them as a marketing tool to grow your database and grow your reach and grow your brand, then they're going to help you out more than you could possibly ever pay for. But use them methodically and use them wisely. And so I spend a lot of time talking with people about, it's always great to cast the widest net, be on as many channels as you can get, and use those levers when the levers are appropriate. Don't use them over 4th of July weekend unless something happens and all of a sudden you have a fallout because there was a storm that went up the East Coast and people can't understand geography that it didn't hit you, it hit New Jersey, so I think that there's a lot to be said. But on the Airbnb note, one thing that I have noticed is that I feel as though because they have not worked with professional management groups, they don't care what we as the professional side, because we're such a small piece of that puzzle to them, that I've had 4 accounts in the last couple of months that have pulled all of their inventory off of Airbnb. And each one of them has said they have not gotten a single phone call outreach or a request to put their inventory back up. And we're not talking like 10 units. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of units in markets, but they just don't, it's just a blip on their radar. So I think it goes back to that larger conversation that we need to have conversations with realtors. We need to have conversations with people as they're entering the business to say, like, it's not so bad to use Airbnb, but don't let that be your only channel. You need to use other channels. And then again, building your brand up and getting a website and having your technology stack prepped and ready to go for when you do have the opportunity to grow. And it sounds like that's what you've done.
Yeah. And also helping owners understand the risks of being Airbnb. If someone does have an accident or COVID and they're supposed to come tomorrow, they will cancel and give them a refund. So in that situation, we try to be proactive, knowing that Airbnb is going to give the guests whatever we want. I'll scoop in and try to reschedule them or try to do things that we necessarily wouldn't do with a direct booking in order to at least keep the reservation rather than completely lose it.
Yeah. Alex, you're on mute.
And we have found.
Oops, sorry. There we go. Have you had it happen yet where there's an issue with the unit and Airbnb moves your guests for you to another unit? That
No,
was their new policy.
No, we have heard of that, but we have not had that issue.
We've had it happen once, and it was exactly the worst case situation everybody fears for, that they moved them to a much more expensive property than what we had them in. And we could have moved them to another one of our units. So it's like, that's where the heavy handedness comes in, that it is our guest. And I think them completely taking the communication is just really troublesome. I mean, that could be a nightmare, especially in the summertime when we're full, so I mean, if there's only one unit left and the person had rented a 1-bedroom and they're going to move them to a 5-bedroom and the property management company has to foot the bill, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing, people do need to learn to use the channels wisely, because, we have our smaller inventory in the shoulder seasons books better on Airbnb.
Sure.
Than VRBO, for example. VRBO, our larger homes, peak season, actually our larger homes any time of year book well on VRBO. And of course, the ultimate goal is direct booking. If a guest comes back in year 2 through the same channel and not direct, shame on us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, actually,
and we do have some guests that just love a platform.
I was going to lead into this. Actually, there are some very savvy guests out there now that know how to use Airbnb to their advantage. If that feather comes out of that pillow, they know they can go straight to Airbnb and say, I'm really allergic to feathers. Give me a refund. And also I have had guests tell me that they feel safer booking with Airbnb, and it's because of Airbnb's, cancellation policies. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but just they know that
extenuating circumstances.
That's such a vague term, though.
They know that Airbnb will make it right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of very clever, deceitful at times people out there that just, I'm not happy with this. I want the whole cleaning fee in 2 nights, and they're milking the system as people do, some people do. And that's a very frustrating part of it as well.
Well, it's good to hear that you have that percentage of direct business, and that's only going to continue to grow. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes 80% in the next 1 to 2 years. I mean, really, with the trajectory you guys are on,
that would be awesome.
Make it happen.
You guys have done a really good job, and we talked to Lance kind of at depth about this, but being very in tune with pricing in your market and managing. Again, you have to manage owner expectations, but you also have to work with the market and be flexible. And one of the things that I think, again, it goes back to some companies have not been as quick to adopt the technology, is that you really went all in with a company called Wheelhouse to do your pricing, and working with Ben Coleman at Revan Research. And so talk about how that kind of came to be, and what you feel like that's made a difference in your business and allowed you to grow.
Oh gosh. Well, I guess I'll take that one. I'm the numbers guy.
I think Ben just might be at my table this Christmas, though, as much as
he's got a seat at everybody's
Not surprised.
table.
I was gonna say.
But I'm just a really strong believer in, when I began to learn to understand some of the data. I mean, key data has been around now for, I don't know, 3-4 years, maybe a bit longer. But when I began to understand the data and understand that, I mean, we started playing around with dynamic pricing as early as maybe 2013, 14, got introduced to this guy named George Volsky, the grandfather of dynamic pricing. I was introduced to him, and we hit it off really fast, and actually I've been intrigued by it ever since. And going back to the early days, I noticed that we had more demand for some weeks than other weeks, and we would alter our rates and then go back and look at them in a couple of months and see if we were right or wrong. But now with today's data tools and the speed with which the data is delivered, you can look daily and see how many people are searching for the second week of July versus the third week of July. And there's empirical evidence as to why your rate should not be the same every day or every week of a given time period.
And it's too much to do manually. And that's the way, when we were smaller, he was doing it manually. And as we grew. There's just, we weren't, we needed a tool that could do it.
Right.
Yeah.
At one point I was trying to do all this manually, and I
There's only so many hours in the day.
We essentially got to the end of the summer, and we needed to develop rates for the next year. And I was like, I can't do this. I spent so much time either loading rate periods and loading rates into our property management software, or trying to monitor and monetize the rates in the best way possible. And at some point in time, technology just became the answer.
Yeah. I remember the days when we'd have revenue meetings, and we'd sit in there and talk about what was going on for the next weekend or whatever it was. And it was always like the dreaded call around, get all the reservationists to do the call arounds and all the properties. And then when the internet became the thing, like, oh, we can just shop it on the internet. And it's like, and then when these pricing tools came around, it was like, oh my gosh, we don't have to use this whole team of people that we've been taking every
exactly
out of their their daily job to do. We had times where we had front desk agents calling around, to get pricing, but now it's all stuff again. At your fingertips. And so it's great.
I remember we did that even back here back in the day, that we would call just to see, because some websites still are tough to actually know what they're selling them for, but people can make it sneaky. But the
whole revenue management conversation is becoming really interesting in our industry. In fact, I was joking with Ben yesterday. I was on LinkedIn, and I was like, there's a revenue manager. There's another revenue manager. We're getting more of them. But the differences between traditional vacation rental management and lease arbitrage model are just, it's almost like a revenue manager probably can't work in both fields, or it's going to take them a long time to understand the difference, because they're managing to yield for a portfolio, whereas I've got a property owner that I'm responsible to, and
it's totally different.
85% is not good enough for that guy.
Right. Yeah.
I can't miss a week in the summertime.
Yeah. Now, one thing that you've mentioned, Lance, is that you still need to have the human touch behind all this too, right? So how much has that helped using a tool, using Wheelhouse, versus how much more do you have to do now, or what has taken off your back?
So the overall rate strategy comes great out of Wheelhouse, and then it really just becomes keeping an eye on the calendars, staying in touch with the reservation staff to make sure that nothing is out of line, whether it be a little high or a little low. But I mean, time wise, it saves me 90% in that field. I mean, to do what we're able to do with Wheelhouse, I need 3 of me.
And 3. I love you 37 hours a day. I don't know about 3 of you. But and where the human touch comes in with the owners as well, in terms of
definitely.
And this is something we're really working on right now, to have a model just to really help owners understand why we're doing this, how it works, because they just don't get it. And it's a challenge explaining it to them. And getting them to trust the system as well. So that's something we're working on.
And we also have had to work with our guest experience people in the way that we target repeat bookings, particularly at the time of checkout, because we might be targeting an 11% increase for next year at this point in time, 365 days in advance. But we want that guest to know that, hey, you've stayed with us 3 years in a row.
You
can book.
We got a different rate for you if you want to book.
And we do that exact same thing. When they check out, they get a discount, but it's based on next year's rate, not on this year's rate.
Exactly.
We always did bounce backs. Like everybody, when they checked out, they'd either get an email, a coupon, or a handed to them that was a bounce back that said, you're guaranteed this discount off of next year's rate. So and we always found those got redeemed like crazy. But again, you have to
repeat markets. It's a big thing for sure.
It is.
Awesome.
So you guys, you've built up this business. You're in multiple markets, and I mean, Alex is the youngest one in this conversation, so it's a little different for her. But we're all not getting any younger. We want to know that we can go play golf on weekends or Mondays or Tuesdays or whatever day we want to play golf, and go fishing and lay on the boat. And so one of the things that really intrigued us is that you guys have a really great kind of not an exit strategy, but you have a plan for what happens when you guys decide you want to go sunset and live your vacation life. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's something that would give other people in the industry some really good ideas about it's not always about selling to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
So we started working with a financial planner a few years ago, and that actually put some seeds into my mind. And then we have a real estate company in our market that came up with a unique idea for a succession plan.
Mm-hmm.
And we've put our own little twist on that. But, and quite honestly, I'm not 100% sure of the details on exactly how it works out. But the people who helped us build the company will eventually become the owners of the company. Our core staff will essentially will finance a buyout for them over some period of time as we begin to phase ourselves out.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And we get more questions about that from prospective owners and from our current owners as they see other companies sell. They want to know, look, you're in your 50s, you're not going to be here forever. What is your plan? How do I know you're not going to just sell and I'm going to be
sell to
somebody I don't even know? Right.
Yeah.
And so it brings them a lot of peace, and they deserve it. They have helped us make it what it is, and be a part of the community. Everyone who works for us lives locally, pretty much right there on the island or within a few minutes of it. And that helps a lot with our community credibility as well, knowing that we're looking out for the people that live there.
Absolutely.
Annie mentioned playing golf, and it really drove home the point about getting older this week when I was asked if I was going to play in the senior club championship.
Oh no. Oh my gosh.
And darn well he signed up for the under 50 division. Yes, anyway. He's in
yeah. As long as you can keep
goes.
sneaking in, right? Just keep doing it.
And Lance, you used to be, were you a pro golfer? I know you're very big into golf.
I am a recovering golf professional. I did over 20 years. I'm a lifetime member of the PGA.
Actually, Tiger Woods. I love that story.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a very long time ago, and I was 17 and he was in 11 in a junior golf tournament. But it's a funny topic.
But you beat him.
Exactly.
I did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Well, it's super fun to just watch you guys on Facebook. I think you've built just an incredible company, but also the two of you have a great work-life balance. It seems like too. You're avid boaters, and you've got your dogs and your kids, and you guys go to the beach, and it just looks like you guys have a lot of fun with all of it. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
we try to work hard, play hard. We're still guilty of only, we try religiously to take Sundays off, and every year we say we're going to take an additional day, but we don't. We work 6 days a week, and how it is to be anywhere, and it never stops, which is why we try to do things like live on the boat and do things in the evening. We try to squeeze as much fun in as we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, one thing we didn't touch on, the commercial laundry business that you're building. Can you tell us a little bit about
Holy
that?
sheets, where we'll wash your sins away.
I love it. I love it.
So we live in a region that is very challenging for the laundry business. And for that reason, nobody really provides linens. It's primarily,
we have no sewer system.
Primarily bring your own, because there's only 3 towns around that actually have a sewer system that's capable of doing anything.
Wow.
We set out 7 years ago to be the first company to be able to provide full service laundry. And this spring, I guess, I was flipping through some real estate listings, and I came across this commercial building that was for sale. It was 2,700 square feet with 700 square foot office and a 2,000 square foot warehouse with water, sewer, and coming natural gas availability. And its current use at that point in time was a church. So I told Elaine, I said, I'm going to run over here. I'm going to buy this church. It sparked a whole other interesting conversation.
Yeah. And it's unbelievable. The expectations for linens to be there. We all know it. I remember years ago having a conversation with Matt Landau, and he was like, you don't have linens included? Yeah. And it was just, there was physically no way to do it. And at that moment, Matt's out there, he knows. I swore we would be the first in our market to do it, and
that is awesome.
Correctly, we are not the first to convert a church into a laundry facility.
No. That is awesome. And
aren't you doing that same thing? Condo World's doing something similar.
Our facility is in a church building as well. So I don't know what it is about those, but just good operation there. And so yours is going to be called Holy Sheets.
Well, that's kind of a joke. We have a lot of
fun. Okay.
Yeah. When we told the staff that we bought a church and we were going to do laundry there, they came up with Holy Sheets. We watched.
I think it's perfect.
I love
You can't not use that on something. I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
Holy water
even
and
if
sheets, because you're washing them too.
Yeah, you wear your sheets are blessed before you sleep, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. God.
We can have so much fun with this.
Oh yeah. And that's certainly going to keep us busy this
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys will agree. There's no such thing as an off season anymore.
No, there's
it's
not.
good.
There's not.
But
There's
you know, I
definitely
think
not.
the good part about it is that you don't have the highs and lows like so extreme.
Right.
You know, it used to be, I know when I moved to Florida, I come from Washington, D.C. area, again, very vibrant around, if everything's open. The first year I was here, I worked at a restaurant. It shut down Labor Day weekend, and then like the beach was empty. And I was like, where did everybody go? Like, it's still nice. Like, this is just crazy. But that was just how it was. And so again, the things that have happened, I wouldn't wish COVID on anybody ever, like the way we dealt with it. However, it was such a great thing for our industry, not only the advancement in technology, the camaraderie that it created, the spotlight on these wonderful businesses that we've all been involved in for so long. I mean, I've been doing this since late 90s, and I would just remember going to conferences and things. If you're like, you do what? Why? Like, nobody does. Like, you got to be in a hotel. Like, that's the only place people stay.
Well, and people weren't collaborative back then
we were
either.
very silent
I mean,
in our towns.
the first VRMA I went to was in 2011, I think, and maybe it's just because we didn't know people then, but it did not feel like the same kind of conference whatsoever as how they are now.
Yeah,
but it's changed a lot over the years.
Well, and that's one of the great things about this industry with all the conferences that are available, and it really really gave us a springboard to success, because we've been active in VRMA and other other events the entire time we've been doing this.
Yeah.
And it's an area where people will share with you.
Absolutely.
And you develop these relationships, and you think you're the first one to have a problem, but I don't believe there's virtually nothing that's original in this industry. It's all been solved.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And people will tell you how to build a successful business if you'll just listen to them.
Yeah.
And I've had some great mentors that. It's funny, we look this last 6-7 months has been particularly difficult, because we're watching so many friends and mentors that are capitalizing on this last round of M&A, and they're checking out.
And we're so happy for them. They have to do what's best for their families, and we totally respect and understand that. But it makes you start thinking about all of it.
There was also a day that we woke up and we looked at each other and we're like, wow, we're becoming some of the more senior people in the industry.
That was kind of eye-opening.
That was when Alex and I were putting
to give back a little bit.
It was funny when Alex and I were putting the podcast together. We're like, well, what is our combined industry experience? And it was like, oh God, I don't have to put.
Well, I was just thinking about that. Do we need to update? Do we need to update?
We do need to update.
Every year.
So I wanted to ask you guys one last question. It's kind of one that's been, I think, on top of people's minds, or it's been a good conversation starter for like future things. Is what do you guys feel is like maybe a topic that is not being discussed as much as it should be in our industry?
You want to go first? Do you want me to? Okay. I'm intrigued by a few things that I've heard recently, and I really don't know how to phrase this just yet, but I know Simon Lehman touched on it. I think he actually mentioned it in Simon Says about, creating trying to bring the standards of the entire industry up, letting the world know that we're not Airbnb. But just there's some operators that maybe they've been around for a while and they just do things old school and they need to bring their standards up, or maybe there's some new people that have not been around for a long time and they don't understand the industry well enough to know what's right and what's wrong. But just to see some professional standards kind of grown, because I think it would help the entire professional community.
Agreed.
Yeah, totally agree.
What about you, Elaine?
Oh gosh. Well, we're always talking about advocacy these days, and I think it's so important to connect with your competitors about that. Our island is very small, and we've reached out to our competitors about collaborating, and we need to stand together. It's not in our town, but it's probably coming. It's probably coming to all of us at one point. And sadly, there's not that kind of camaraderie in our market. Obviously, we came into town, took a lot of business. Well, they don't really want to hang out with us. I get it.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that is so important. And we're trying to actually start something
slowly
down
working
here
on-
to build that. We kind of want to
Well,
spearhead that.
Yeah. Almost
Yeah.
like a regional
Mhm.
association.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. So are you thinking kind of like what Rent Responsibly is doing in different communities, or would you be starting your own, or?
That's a really good question, and we've talked about it, and we've actually had a very brief, I think we chatted with Rent Responsibly for just a few minutes at the end of DARM.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's something that we never quite have the bandwidth to sit down and really write it out on what we want to do. But we know it's something that's coming, and it's going to have to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as it was said on another podcast here very recently, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're
On the
probably-
menu. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. We just had a small group, actually a small group, and then it became a larger group get together here in Myrtle Beach recently that had vacation rental companies, but then also some of the condotel companies that, they're really run more as hotels, but they are vacation rentals. And I think, we don't have any bad restrictions legislation in our area yet, but just like you said, that doesn't mean that it's not coming.
You
And
need to
so
be
just
ready.
trying to prepare everybody, for what that conversation and what the red flags are and what we can do now, because I think a lot of the city and city council and everything, they don't understand that. They don't understand that we are not Airbnb. I mean, they know that we are good businesses, but they think that these restrictions for Airbnb will solve all the problems. But even the condotels, those are vacation rentals. So those properties that you just think they're hotels, they would be subject to all these rules too. And my gosh, that's the majority of inventory in Myrtle Beach. But it's definitely something that Annie and I are very passionate about too. And just it's crazy. We all know the industry so well that we think everybody understands what we do and what the product is, but there's still, COVID has given us a lot of light, but there's still a lot of information that needs to be shared.
A lot of education.
I was just
Education.
going to say education. And along that line, something that's been huge for us, Lance sits on the board for the Eastern Shore Association of Realtors. I sit on the board for the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And a huge part of that is educating people who are influential in the community, that, decision makers, what we're really doing and how we're managing it and how we're making sure the neighbors aren't disturbed and all of these things. And I think if anybody out there does not have a seat at those tables, get out there.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, for sure.
Very
That's
important.
super important. Yeah.
Very important.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. This has been wonderful. And just to hear a little bit more about your story, and we can't wait to see you at the next event. Are you going to be at VRMA?
Yes. And we are bringing our whole team. I think we're bringing like 11 people.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Super
great.
excited about that.
Lance, you're going to golf, right? You'll be at the tournament?
That is undetermined.
You know what? I think it depends on how he golfs this weekend. He's golfing in a club championship this weekend, so we'll see.
Okay. Not the senior one, right?
Well, so I think I've played 27 holes of golf all year and decided I was going to try and play in the club championships. Probably a very, very poor decision.
Well, let us know how it goes.
And then so we will be in Vegas for VRMA International, and
we'd like to go to everything. We can't go to everything.
December 5th,
that's the hard part.
We're actually we're helping with the planning of there'll be a VRMA Connect in Annapolis, Maryland on December 5th.
Which we're super excited about.
Okay.
That's a great town.
That Zoom call was just prior to this one, and we came up with a really cool, innovative idea for
content
panels.
Is going to be awesome and original and different, and just, we were talking about how there, some of the sessions can get repetitive if you go to
definitely
conferences a year. So we've got some Jody's on the committee as well, and we're working on some really fun ideas.
There will be no
cool.
ties at the end of the event.
I was gonna say maybe we need to add that to our schedule. That sounds like a good one.
It's hard for you.
It's not too far at all.
Thank you guys so much. If people want to get in touch with you guys as a team, what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Oh gosh, phone, email, Facebook,
LinkedIn,
we're everywhere. We're always happy to talk and collaborate and to share our ideas, and and always looking for new ideas.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome. We'll put links for everything in the show notes if
Awesome.
anybody wants to get in touch with them. But if
Awesome.
anybody wants to get in
Always
touch
happy
with,
to share.
yeah, well, see,
Good.
that's what,
We
that's
appreciate
what
that.
it's all about. That's what it's all about. And that's the right mindset to have.
I would like to throw this in there, and I probably should have done this a long time ago. Something that I left Darm with that has been keeping me up at night.
Okay.
Ben Edwards, he said, say yes to everything.
Everything.
Absolutely.
You there for that?
Yes.
Say yes to everything. And I've actually been wanting to call Ben and talk about this further, because my reaction was, well, how do you can't say yes to everything. There'll be people scamming you and blah, blah, blah. So we've been trying this a little bit more in the office, and it's really interesting. And I think I'd like to have so many more conversations about this, who's doing it. So that's a conversation for another time, but that has been on my mind nonstop since Darm.
Yeah, no, that's a great line, and so true. I mean, the more communication you have, the more that you're talking to other people within the space, the more you're learning and you're growing and bringing all that back to your business. So yeah, definitely.
There's some brilliant minds out there in our business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're talking to two of them right now. So
you're sweet.
All you do to raise the screen.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we appreciate you guys very much. You are two of our all-stars, 100%. So thank you for being here. If anybody wants to reach out to Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And until the next time, thank you for tuning in.